me into a libertarian because the general drift in America that causes, among other things, the bigger state is a kind of creeping and often creepy libertarianism. So you have the weakness of Republicans is the tendency to understand everything in terms of markets and to understand the market model as the way every human thing should be reconstructed. So when you go to economics class, how many of y'all notice this? Well, they know something about economics, but their error is this: they think they can explain everything through economics, like the Freakonomics guys. That book is, I never mind. The new one especially is not so good. But in general, the Republicans tend to be more libertarian when it comes to the economy, but the Democrats are far more libertarian when it comes to society or the culture. The Democrats tend to believe, not every Democrat, perhaps not the Democrats in Utah for all I know, but Democrats in general tend to think we will have more justice when the national courts and the national bureaucracies reconstruct every cultural experience according to contract and consent. So everything human beings do has to be understood on the model of the free individual. So the government has to suppose the individual has no particular content except the content the individual gives him or herself. And so everything has to be consensual. I'm not going to give some kind of polemic against same-sex marriage because if I were like when I was at Pomona College, I actually did because I knew they would hate it. But here I'll be preaching to the choir quite literally, so I'm not going to do it. Except to say this: the reason gays, not without reason, want marriage is because of what we've done to marriage over the years. We have reconstructed marriage so it's a duty-free contract between two individuals. So if marriage were about fidelity, if it were about the strong expectation that there be children, but in fact we have more women, moms who aren't married than ever, and we have more wives who don't have kids than ever. So the connection between marriage and children, not in Utah so much, but the connection between marriage and children has become very tenuous nationwide. So we don't expect fidelity. Adultery is a very judgmental word we don't want to use. We don't expect children. We expect people to be able to enter in and out of these contracts very easily, so we want divorce to be no fault. So I remember watching Mad Men the other night. In New York in 1960, the only cause for a divorce the state would recognize adultery proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Not just a claim of adultery, you would have to prove it. I have to admit, that's probably too stringent a law in modern times. But now, and again, I don't know about Utah, but in general, divorce is generally speaking very easy. Now take your, again, I'm talking as a social scientist, not making any judgments. If you tell your typical gay American, if you get married, you can't get divorced, you have to remain faithful, all kinds of social stigma and law will come down on you, and the expectation is you'll get children, and if you can't have them biologically, there are other ways to get them. So but we expect to get them somehow. And so, people go to Ecuador or the Philippines, not the Philippines so much, but other countries, or like there are plenty of special needs African American kids who go unadopted, and so we would expect you then to adopt one of them if nothing else is working out. So we expect you to do everything you can to have a family with children, not to commit adultery, and to be faithful. Then how many gay guys would want to get married? Because these responsibilities, and again, I'm not being judgmental, don't accord to the dominant impetus of their way of life. But if you turn this institution into all rights but no responsibilities, but thoroughly individualizing it, all of a sudden the gay guy says, we're just giving out rights here like candy, why don't we get ours too? And to tell you the truth, we don't have a real good answer to this. So it goes without saying, the more libertarian social and cultural life becomes, the more people become anxious and lonely, and things they used to get from the family and in the church and just local community, they expect government to provide. So oddly enough, social and cultural libertarianism is will always be in the long run a cause of statism, because when people are all alone, they don't have to be quite howling, but just very anxious. They want government to step in.
Thank you. Students, a question, comment, follow-up?
Yes, sir.
How, in your opinion, do you think we can show other society, other opinions and ideas that our way actually provides fulfillment that isn't going to be like modern industry?
I have no right to tell you what to do. A vital religion doesn't bring in consultants not on the team. That makes no sense.
With a question about how we was the we